caucus tonight was the main takeaway for voters, and to get voters out to go in June to get out and cast their ballots?
Absolutely. Look, it is incredibly important that voters understand the problems in our economy are directly linked to the corruption of our politics. And whether that is the ability of corporations to influence lawmakers with their campaign contributions, whether that is dark money super PACs trying to buy elections and influence outcomes. Iowans are the ones who are going to decide this election, not the insiders. This campaign is about speaking truth to power, being able to challenge the status quo, and having a new vision and a new direction for our state, for our country, for the Democratic Party. That's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and that is why I'm confident that we are building a campaign that will not just win the primary, but be national.
My next question then is talk about what it's going to take. We do know that there's a $29 million campaign coming her way to help support her. Talk about what it's going to take to really resonate with these voters and to flip this seat.
Everywhere we go, we meet Iowans from all walks of life, big cities, small towns, who are feeling the squeeze of this economy that is working great for the billionaires, working great for Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but it is not working for working class Iowans, middle class Iowans, retired Iowans. And Iowans may not be able to explain all the difference between the super PAC or the dark money or whatever, but they understand the system is fundamentally broken, that we have too many insiders who are bought and paid for, and understand that we need new leaders who are willing to challenge that status quo. That is why yesterday we released a comprehensive 10-point plan that is going to fundamentally end this rigged system. I have a track record of being able to work across the aisle to pass things to protect my constituents, but also standing to fight for the values that I believe this party needs to be committed to. And that means that we have to have a nominee who's willing to move us in a new direction, and that's what we're interested in.
Representative Turk was saying he was disappointed in some of the criticisms he brought up tonight as far as his record and the support from outside groups that he's getting. What's your response to that? Why do you feel like those things are important to bring up?
Here tonight, we are talking about a broken campaign finance system. One of the things that is broken about it is that you have these anonymous, dark money groups that fund super PACs, including the one that has spent now over $2.5 million supporting Representative Turek, a super PAC that has been linked directly to Senator Chuck Schumer. And if you think that it is not a coincidence that I've been willing to call for new leadership in the Senate Democratic Caucus and Representative Turek is not, I don't know what to tell you. My view is that Iowans across the political spectrum are sick of a broken status quo in Washington, D.C., and that in order to defeat Ashley Hinson in November, we have to be able to draw a clear contrast that says, I am running for this seat to represent what I believe is best for Iowans, that I don't answer to party bosses in D.C. or insiders or the super PACs who are funding those campaigns. When you look at what is happening with Ashley Hinson, I will tell you this, they have announced a $29 million investment in April of the election year. They're not waiting for the primary to be over. This idea that they have a preference, I think, is very clearly refuted by the fact that they have made this huge investment early on. They know that they are going to have to fight really hard to try to protect this seat, and I think that they are afraid of the fact that we are building a coalition that spans the political spectrum. We had 15% of our nominating petition signers just a few weeks ago, registered independents and Republicans. That is because this anti-corruption message resonates with people, and I gave several examples here tonight across the political spectrum, and no matter whether you're in a big city or a small town.
Suggesting that Turek answers to Schumer?
I think that if Senator Schumer was not involved in this somehow, there would be no connection of $2.5 million coming in for Representative Turek, and the fact that I've been willing to criticize Senator Schumer. What I would basically just tell you, Kay, is you're going to have the ability to contrast with the fact that Ashley Hinson has been a rubber stamp of the Trump White House, and whether or not we have a Democratic nominee who is willing to defy our own national party leadership. Chuck Schumer is on the record saying the Democratic Party should write off blue-collar voters and rural voters, because you can just make that up in the suburbs. That math might work in New York, it sure as hell doesn't work in Iowa. And what I would tell you is that is not the Democratic Party that I want to belong to. This is the party that since the New Deal has fought for workers' rights and civil rights and women's rights. We are the party that has been dedicated to fighting for people against powerful interests. Those same powerful interests are the ones who are benefiting from this rigged campaign finance system that allows anonymous dark money to flow into a Democratic primary like this one. And if you want to tell me that that is not connected to the fact that one of the two candidates in this race has been willing to say that it is time for new leadership in the Senate Democratic Caucus, I don't know what to tell you.
How do you, so you and Representative Turek have similar policy positions. I guess how do you respond to Representative Turek, making this electability argument and arguing that, as somebody who represents a red district that went from Trump, that he's best suited heading into the general election compared to somebody who's representing a fairly safe district?
Well, I think your point about the similar policies is interesting, because if you want to talk about electability, I think that they've been trying to tell a certain narrative about the campaign. What I would tell you is that fundamentally we view this race as outsiders versus insiders. The willingness to challenge your own national party leaders is something that I believe is really important, because it is very clear that under Senator Schumer's leadership, Democrats have not had the success that we need. We haven't been able to fight for the American people, and they have been participating in essentially the same rigged system that so many Iowans across the political spectrum are absolutely fed up with. And so my view is that if you want to talk about electability, you have to have the ability to contrast with Representative Hinson, who again has been a rubber stamp for an agenda from the Trump White House that has been absolutely devastating for our state. They cut taxes for billionaires like Elon Musk, and then turned around and cut investments in healthcare, in food assistance, in affordable energy, right? So we have to be able to have that contrast, and it's gonna be a hell of a lot easier to do it if you have somebody who doesn't know the Democratic Party bosses in DC a damn thing, and I'm that person.
Did you go out to DC last summer, either before or after you announced, to try to make your case to the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee?
Yeah, I mean, Laura, when we were thinking about getting this campaign put together, I talked with a lot of people. But from the very beginning, I was clear that in order to win in this state, no matter who the nominee is, you have to be able to talk about the failed establishment in Washington, D.C., and that involves both parties. I mean, you know just as well as I do what the voter registration numbers are here in Iowa. And if you think that it is going to be easy to win a race if you've been tagged as the establishment favorite from Washington, D.C., I don't know what to tell you. But what I can tell you is this: when we are out campaigning across our state and we are willing to talk about challenging the status quo of both parties, that is something that resonates with Republicans, independents, and Democrats. That is the kind of message that is going to allow a candidate to win a statewide election. And Ashley Hinson, as we found out recently, is going to be very well funded. We have no idea where that $29 million is coming from or what they're asking for, but I can tell you it ain't pretty. But voters understand that, right? And so as the Democratic nominee in this race, I will be able to authentically talk with voters about the fact that I was not Chuck Schumer's handpicked candidate in this race, and that is a huge asset for us in winning here in November. And the reality is that as Democrats at the national level, whether it's the party committees or it's individual grassroots donors or it's people like the ones who are here tonight just wanting to learn more about the candidates and get involved in the campaign, if they feel like they have that authentic connection with somebody who represents them and not just whatever is happening in DC, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to win this election in November. And at the end of the day, that is, of course, what we have to do no matter what.
If you win the primary, are you going to take the help of Senate Democratic campaign arm?
Look, if national Democratic groups want to come in and support me in this race, I'm obviously not allowed to coordinate with them, but what I can tell you is this: it will absolutely not change my position. I will not vote for Chuck Schumer for leader, whether that is minority leader or majority leader. But I'll tell you, because I think we are going to win this race, I think we will be voting for a new majority leader, and I know who I am not going to be voting for.
With respect to the
it doesn't matter what other outside spending comes in my way at all.
Who would you support for leader?
That's a good question. Ask me again in a few months. I'll have some more thoughts for you.
With respect to the war in Iran, President Trump telegraphed that he was willing to commit war crimes. He may have already committed war crimes, and if he does commit war crimes or has, is our congressional district and Ashley Hinson complicit?
I mean, look, Bob, here's what I'll tell you. When the president began this war several weeks ago, I was one of the very first people to speak out and say that we needed to, Congress needed to step up and rein Donald Trump in. I would have voted in support of a war powers resolution that would have curbed the ability of the White House to wage this war indefinitely. I believe that they have launched a campaign without any clear objectives, any clear goals, any clear timeline, without making their case to the American people. And they are clearly engaging in this incredibly dangerous brinksmanship with the Iranian regime. And so, I know that there were some developments yesterday, and I haven't been totally caught up to speed on every single thing that happened yesterday, but what I can tell you is this: war crimes are unacceptable, no matter who is committing them, and it is absolutely vital that the administration resolve this conflict as quickly as possible. Iowa has already experienced a serious human toll. We are seeing a catastrophic economic toll as well. And the longer this drags on, the worse it is going to be for both the American people and the people of Iran.
And is our congressional district complicit if war crimes?
I mean, look, my understanding is that every member of the Republican delegation from Iowa voted against checking this war. So as far as I'm concerned, that would be a yes.
Let's say Democrats do win the majority. How would you effectively get legislation you support across if you're in an oppositional relationship with leadership?
So look, I'll tell you, here just earlier this year, I think several of you were at this event. I was able to introduce in a bipartisan way legislation with Dave Sayers, who, Lord knows, I do not agree with on every single issue, but we agree on this. And so from my perspective, there is a growing number of legislators, and to some extent, I do think there's a generational divide on this. And I will tell you that it is in both parties. People who are willing to challenge this corruption of the current system. You see it in some of the other Democratic candidates who are running, people like Mallory McMorrow or James Tallarico and some of these other states. In the Republican side, I look at somebody like Josh Hawley, who, again, I don't agree with Josh Hawley on a lot, but he has been willing to be a voice when it comes to cracking down on some of this corruption, reining in some of these big companies. And so I would be looking to build relationships with people across the aisle, the same way that I've done in the legislature, because when you can do that in an effective way, it means that you don't have to compromise on your values. It means that you can find the common ground, and when you can do that, things can happen. And look, I'm not under any illusion that any of this will be easy. I'm not under any illusion that any of this will happen overnight. But what I can tell you is this: as someone who has been battle tested in the legislature, who has been willing to challenge my own party from time to time, and who is always willing to do what I think is right for my constituents. I haven't won every fight that I've been in, but I've never backed down. I'm not going to start in the United States Senate. Thank you.